Everyone talks about the power of data-driven instruction, but what does that actually look like? Look no further than iExcel, the ultimate online learning and teaching platform for K to 12. iExcel gives you meaningful insights that drive real progress, and research can prove it. Studies in nearly all 50 states across the U.S. show that schools that use iExcel outperform other schools on state tests. Educators who use iExcel love that they can easily see how their schools are performing in real time to make better instructional decisions. And iExcel doesn't stop at just data. iExcel also brings an entire ecosystem of resources for your teachers with a complete curriculum, personalized learning plans, and so much more. It's no wonder that iExcel is used in 95 of the top 100 school districts. Ready to join them? Visit iexcel.com/PM to get started.
You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker back with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, for another Monday Matters. Jen, it's April. April. And I mean, we're looking at Easter coming up, and we're actually recording this at the end of March. But I just want to say happy Easter to anybody out there that may not hear this until then. But recently, you did another wonderful post on building trust. And I want you to set the stage for this, because this all began with a conversation. I know it's confidential, but you've been really careful to share this as a learning opportunity for all of us. So take us there, because I want to talk about this part of the conversation, which is how do we build trust through the right conversations?
That's right. That's right. So yes, I wrote a 3-part series about a phone call I received from someone that I named Sandri, and she was an assistant principal from the West Coast. I'd met her a few years back at a conference, and she had kind of been gobsmacked because she was non-renewed at the last minute, meaning it was literally the last day that in her state a contract could be terminated. And the decision really confounded her. And when she called me, she said, I don't know what I did. My evaluations were great. I've had no feedback. And so we talked for quite some time. And my first question to her was, really? You didn't have any idea? And so upon deeper reflection, she really was able to see that her and her principal didn't have trust because they had never had the expectation conversation. And so that's kind of what brings us here today to talk about an expectation conversation. And I want to be clear, an expectation conversation should not be once. It should be an ongoing, continuous conversation. I don't even know that it's something you schedule on a regular rhythm, but it should be ongoing. So again, that's why we're here today, to talk about that.
Well, I love that, because our previous guest that we had on last Wednesday's show is someone who I admire, because his life's work for the last 20 years, at least, has been helping principals get really clear on their roles and the roles of the people that work with them. And he talks a lot about training first responders, helping train people to treat you like you want to be trained. And Jen, we know that in a school, the school dynamic of, especially if there's a leadership team, there's no greater need for trust and clarity than there is among those team members, because you're going to be handling a lot of really difficult stuff. And so what are some things you've been thinking about to help leaders get that kind of clarity with each other?
Right. So this is what I told Sandri when she called, and then I wrote it down. I was taking notes as I talked myself, because I really think it's important that you kind of address 3 different categories. This will help alleviate bad assumptions. It will help enhance good intentions. So these prompts are designed to be ongoing. And if you're driving in your car, you don't need to remember any of this. Just check out my newsletter and they're all written there. But the 3 categories are what's my lane, strategic communication, and building trust. So if it's okay, I'll just kind of dive in a little bit to these. The what's my lane? There's some questions here that helps clarify who owns what. And this really prevents that stepping over each other or redundancy in work. So one thing that you and your administrative partner or teammate might want to discuss are, what are some goals that you'd like to achieve this year for it to be successful? And how does my role fit into that? Another question might be, okay, in the past, was there any overlap or confusion in roles with other people you've worked with? How can we define our lanes so we don't duplicate or upend
Mhm.
each other's decisions?
Mhm.
And then here, this is critical. If a situation arises where we disagree, how can we handle that? You guys, I live this. I say to my boss all the time, hey, is this my lane? Is this something that I should be working on? Or I will say, okay, we're going into this situation, whether it's hiring or dealing with a staff situation or a family situation. And I will say, okay, if you and I aren't on the same page, are we going to pause and then talk about it on Monday? Like, get that out there and get that
Mhm.
conversation really thoroughly considered so everybody knows exactly how to respond when it's a question of territory and lane.
Wow. Jen, can I speak to this before we go to the next
Please,
one?
please.
Because what I appreciate about this is, and I just want to share a really practical way to do this too, because those conversation prompts are a great place to start. But I work with a lot of leaders who will literally sit down and say, let's talk about our lanes by looking at what's on my list of things that I'm the point person for. And these are the things I want you to be the point person for. And I was just talking to a leader last week. He's got a team of 5 administrators, large school. And he's got a very detailed list for like, these are my things, but I have to have you guys running these things or they're not going to get done.
Mhm.
And so I think that clarity on the front end is huge. And I know as a former assistant principal and then later as a principal, how important it was for me to know that so that I would know this is my job. This is
Right,
what I'm supposed to be doing. So thank you for that clarity of you need to know what's my lane.
right.
What's that second?
Okay, the second one is strategic communication. So here's the thing, Will. Sandri was genuinely perplexed when she was non-renewed.
Hmm.
Yet her boss thought they had provided guidance for improvement. And so when I really pushed Sandri, she said something along the lines of, no, all the feedback I got was great. I mean, they had ideas for how I could do things differently. I said, okay, tell me more about that. Tell me more. And she told me about an event that she had been in charge of. And afterwards, they're like, that was great. I think next year, what you need to do is, and they gave her like 3 or 4 things.
Mm.
She heard that was great. They thought they told her how it wasn't great. So
Gotcha.
these 3 questions will help you kind of clear out that gray area. You can ask your supervisor or your teammate, okay, outside of my formal annual evaluation, outside of that, how do I know if I'm meeting your expectations? What does
Great.
that even look like for you? That's a great
Mhm.
question.
Mhm.
2, hey, I value directness. So if you see me kind of going sideways and I'm not aligning with your vision, how can I get that feedback right away? And I would almost advocate for some sign of sort of code word. By that, I mean, you might ask your supervisor or your teammate to say something like, hey, I've got some of that real time feedback for you. You ready?
There
So
you
that
go.
you know this is real. We're not just breaking down what's going on, but we're saying, here's something you need to change right now. Like you want someone to be direct with you. But if you want directness, you cannot be easily offendable. You have to be
Mhm.
like, if I say I want feedback, I really have to want it. And then the third question you might ask is, okay, when I get suggestions or ideas for growth, how can I distinguish between a suggestion and a non-negotiable? Can you can we talk about terms that will help me know, hey, this isn't just chit-chatting. This is a mandate. How can I be clear on that? And you can even say to the person, I will clarify, is this a want or a need? Is this an ask or a must? You can do your part to make sure it's clear, but that conversation really should happen ahead of time so that whoever it is that you're working with knows they do have the freedom to give you the feedback.
Wow, Jen, what I appreciate about this is someone's listening to this right now who you're realizing, hmm,
Mhm.
I'm supervising someone with whom I need to be clearer. So these can go both ways. You can either ask this so you have clarity from the people who are supervising you, or you can make sure you're being really clear by using this kind of language of the people that you're
Mhm.
supervising too. So these are just such great um, tools for having those more direct conversations. Um, what's area 3?
Okay, area 3, the last one. This is about trust. And so this whole series I did with my newsletter was about trust. So here's where we really get down to the brass tacks. This is where we build trust by really uncovering leadership styles. So here's questions that I love to ask.
Hmm.
What's the one thing that if it lands on your desk without you knowing is really going to frustrate you? Or are there any behaviors that are going to frustrate you? I was an assistant principal once. My principal hated when people just walked in his office and he wasn't ready. It was just who he was. Other people wouldn't mind. I said, okay, how about if I need to talk to you, I drop you a quick text and you tell me when it's time to walk in. And we did that and it worked. So that was something that would have frustrated him. The second question is, are there any unwritten rules of this district or school that I should be aware of? That's a great question. What is it that I might not see? It's not written anywhere, but I need to know. And then finally, what does a win look like for this partnership 6 months from now? What does that look like to you? If you ask those questions, you're really saying, who are you and who am I? And how can I get this to work? I also said, well, let me pause there and see if you have any thoughts before I go into that.
I have so many, but I don't know which one to choose. So I'm going to choose a funny one because I remember when I was working with a principal friend of mine when I was in AP, and she said to me, I'm surprised she said it, but I was so grateful to know this because she was like, well, I just need to tell you, when we're doing disciplinary situations, if a boy cries, I fall apart. So you're just going to step. She goes, I just crumble. I just like give in. She's like, so if we're in a situation like that and the boy's getting emotional, you're just going to have to step in and take over. And it was so funny because sure enough, we'd be in a situation and the guy would start getting all upset and I would just step in and take it because I knew she had to gather herself first before we could move forward. And that was just such an awareness though of her, like her own makeup. So many of the things you're saying, Jen, I'm just thinking about like your own self-awareness of your emotional intelligence,
right?
The ability to be emotionally intelligent enough to ask someone else for that. That's hard to do, but these questions really help you go there.
Right. My weakness, by the way, and this is preposterous because this happens all the time. I hated it when kids lied to me and I knew they were lying. Like I knew. I would get so angry. And I had my principal one time thought it was hilarious. So whenever someone was lying and we knew it, she would be able to take over because she thought it was amusing. Whereas I was ready to, kick something. And so she would take over. So that's good. That's the point really, is to figure out what it is that your leadership style, what your triggers are. So when you have these conversations, I think it's important too to take notes, physical notes to say, okay, I'm really absorbing this information. One caution, I would never say to anyone, be so committed to this that you're obnoxious. And by that, I mean, I worked with someone once who every 14 minutes, she was like, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this what you need? I was like, you're fine. So I don't think this, when I say an ongoing conversation, I mean, every couple weeks, do a check-in, just see how things are going. You don't want to do it 6 times a day. Make it so that you've built the trust. You are willing to take the feedback. And then when the feedback comes, you really do listen and respond. So that's my final caution there. This is really about clarity, reinforcement, and just building that trust. Yeah. Because clarity really is a gift you can give yourself. You can ask for clarity and you can make sure that you get it by starting that conversation now.
Oh, that's so good, Jen. So for any Principal Matters listeners, I just want to just add a quick framework to this that I think would be helpful. This is something that was helpful for me, so it may be helpful for you. Is one that when you have those initial conversations when you're bringing somebody on the team or you're starting a new school year, I call them those key responsibility area questions. I call them KRAs. When you're having those, what's my lane, what's your lane? That's the important way to set the parameters of how we work together. But then I also think it's important to take a look at your calendar where I would suggest every single week, we're pulling together as a leadership team and just catching up, making sure we're on the same pages, resolving any concerns or issues or questions. But then the third thing I would suggest is the importance of debriefing after really like one of those big moments where something's just happened, where maybe we've just managed something really out of the ordinary or really important, or maybe it was resolving an unsafe situation. Those debriefs are super important too. Not waiting for a scheduled meeting to pull together. How are you doing? How am I doing? what would we do differently next time? And so debriefing those things so that you're in the moment also correcting anything that might need to be tweaked before you move forward. So gosh, Jen, it's a science and an art, and it's never perfect, is it?
It's not. But I think you just said something really cool that you didn't even know you said. You said make sure you're on the same pages. It's funny because we usually say on the same page. In this role, it's many pages. It's many pages. Okay, where are we on the drills we have to do? Where are we on instructional leadership? Where are we on behaviors? Where are we on parents? It's pages. So I thought that was. I just think that was really cool. I don't
you're
even
so
know
right. You're so right.
Get on the same pages.
Yeah, just yesterday I was in a virtual meeting with a whole group of leaders from different places in the U.S., and we were talking about all the different responsibilities and roles. And finally, I just stopped and said, "Your job is so complicated, isn't it?" And every head was nodding.
Yes,
because it is. It is. So even as Jen and I say this, please don't ever think either one of us feels like we've got it figured out. We've got it all. We can do it because we can't do it perfectly. None of us can. The goal, I like to say this, the goal is not perfection. The goal is growth. Yeah, so we're going to keep growing. So Jen, thank you for bringing this wonderful newsletter to readers and to subscribers and to today's podcast audience. How can folks find your newsletter if they want to subscribe and stay connected with you?
Yes, I post the link to the newsletter every week on LinkedIn. It's also on my website, jenschwanke.com, and I'm climbing up in subscribers. It's really fun. So join me. We just, I kind of get real on that. So jenschwanke.com, you can find the link to subscribe. And Will, what about you?
You don't want to miss Jen's newsletter. I look for it every week and I read it from the top to the bottom. And I learn so much when I do. And Jen, Principal Matters listeners can find our resources in today's post at williamdparker.com. If you're planning PD for next school year and you think that either Jen or me or any of the friends that we'd love to recommend could come and help, or if you're interested in things like our virtual trainings or fill in the blank. There's so many things we do, Jen, or coaching. We'd love to talk to you. So reach out to me at will@williamdparker.com or jen@jenschwanke.com. So until next time, thanks for doing what matters, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.